Welcome to our LinkedIn community. We're excited about this conversation this afternoon on our LinkedIn Live event titled, How Does No CAPEX Work? Zero carbon with no upfront cost. So today we're joined by David Kurzman. David is the CFO of Exergy Energy. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Well, we're looking for this conversation. This is a topic that is near and dear to everyone's heart. As you can imagine, that search for revenue. Where do I put my money as a company? And when I look at things like resiliency and lowering my carbon footprint, that's not always the first place people think when they think about the revenue and then their CapEx. So, to start into the conversation, why don't we just jump right in with the title? So the title of How Does CAPEX Work? Zero Carbon with No Upfront Cost. It asks a question, then it also makes a statement. So can you explain, what we mean by that when we say no CAPEX and zero carbon with no upfront cost?
Absolutely. So Exergy is a concierge utility. We solve four things for our clients that they can't really do themselves. We help them become 100% resilient so that they won't have to suffer from outages when the grid inevitably fails. Second thing is we can make them 100% green or get them zero carbon nuclear or biomass energy to power their entire facility. Third thing is we save them money without having to invest in their system. And fourth thing is we bring all the money. There's no CapEx upfront for the customer. We put in all the capital, own and operate the system on their behalf. This is perfect for organizations for whom energy is mission critical. It might only be 2, 3, 4% of their overall cost structure goes to energy, but if they don't have energy, it's a big problem. And the way we do this is we install on site at our cost backup power equal to their peak power requirements sized to their entire plant. This is tier 1 equipment that is installed on their site that we will own and operate. Now, we guide you through the process as well of contracting for either renewable, zero carbon, or brown energy, if that's what you're interested in. And we do that all included. Again, no upfront cost. And the way that we save money for you guys and hassle is you would have to go out and do this yourself. We have the experience and know-how and expertise to bring to the table to help you guys save money. And we have access to the markets and the grid programs that will allow us to generate money on behalf of your organization.
So when I look at the first part of it, that no CapEx part, if I'm not investing my CapEx as a company in that product, that means you are. As the vendor, so that it has that ring of too good to be true. So when somebody says that, you're giving me the opportunity of zero carbon, you're handling resiliency for me and no CapEx to me, too good to be true. What do you say when a customer shares that thought with you?
We get that a lot, and there's really no catch. You simply sign up under a long-term agreement with Exergy, where we become your concierge utility, overseeing your entire facility's energy needs so that you can focus on your operations. You have more precious things to do with your money and your time. Capital needs to be put towards the highest return possible, and that's revenue generation, not a power plant or a backup power plant, which is in effect a life insurance agreement. This agreement that you sign with Exergy is called an RSA, or a Resiliency Service Agreement. It has fixed monthly payments for a set term, typically 10 years, and there are no surprises.
One of the nice things is when I talk to municipalities or organizations that would typically have to go through the laborious RFP process, anytime they're looking at a significant capital expenditure, they get pretty excited when you say this isn't a CapEx expenditure. It's going to be something on your OpEx. Is that a value add, from your perspective, as far as, that not having to go through that RFP process?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a huge time savings for organizations that would normally put out RFPs. We're allowing you to go to market and know that you have someone sitting on your side of the table advocating for you and your best interests. And we can do that by reviewing your utility bills and interval data and know exactly how your usage patterns, that curve, looks throughout the day or throughout the year, and match up perfectly to what you need, the energy contracts and backup generation system best suited to your organization.
So if I'm a typical business client, and my two options to address, let's say just the first part of it, the resiliency, where I'm looking at, a large capital expenditure, and if I were to do it myself, I'm going to the market, I'm spending my CAPEX on buying a piece of equipment. What other costs, go into that somebody might not be thinking about when they think I'm just going to go out and buy this myself?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot there. And we actually have available upon request what we call our executives checklists. So if you do want to try to do this yourself, we'll happily give you that checklist. But when you review it, you're going to see there are a lot of steps involved. It's not just the time, it's not just the capital, which are very expensive resources that you'd rather have focused on revenue growth in your core operations. It's also operating, maintaining, and managing that backup power facility is a very time-consuming endeavor that also requires, if you want to truly monetize for your best interest, that means you got to access the energy markets as well. These are programs that are available through the utilities and grid operators to allow you to generate excess revenues. We know how to do that. We're the experts in the market. Let us help you work that out.
So in regards to just the backup power portion of it, so that's getting installed at my site as the customer. So does that mean that I have, responsibility as far as my head count, my facilities person, my maintenance person? And one thing we're hearing from a lot of corporate clients is that it's getting hard to backfill those positions with talent. The labor crunch that we're all in, that's one area where we're not seeing a lot of people going into. And then, as those people retire, organizations are finding finding it challenging to replace those maintenance personnel with talented staff. So Absolutely. Is that something that my people are going to have to take on, since it's going to be on my site?
No, and that's one of the great benefits of our RSA and program. You and your organization have better things to do with your time. Let us, the energy experts who own, operate, maintain, and manage that asset on your behalf, let us focus on doing that. We then contract with leading maintenance firms that will do the operations and maintenance while we remotely operate and control the asset, again, for the benefit of your organization. That's going to save you tons of time and money and allow you to focus on your organization again. I'll tell you a little story. We had on December 23rd of last year, a client call us up and say, hey, why is our generator running? And it turned out that somebody on their street had hit their telephone pole with their car and knocked out 4 organizations on that block, and they were one of them. They didn't lose power, and that was right before the big holiday season when they needed to be selling. So this is a true remotely operated and managed asset for you, so that you don't have to.
So with the other option, as opposed to having somebody that's just taking care of all of this for me, who's managing it on my behalf, who's taking that CAPEX hit and just passing along a managed service to me. The other option being I'm doing it myself. And the largest cost that I would face would be my initial CAPEX. But then I also have, a pretty significant amount of money going out in regards to maintenance and ongoing, service and support. Right. And then there's always that opportunity to skimp there and save some money. but then I put at risk the fact that the whole reason I have this asset in place anyway is so that it runs in case of emergency. And if I'm not doing that maintenance on a regular scheduled basis, then I've outlaid that cash for nothing, because I don't even have the comfort level that it's going to work when it's supposed to. So if I'm a customer and I have, let's say I have multiple locations, and I can think of a particular client that at nursing home with multiple sites, mm-hmm. and state comes in to audit, and they say, we need to see your records for your backup power at facility 4. Sometimes that's a challenge for customers, is just, what do we have in place at facility 4? Who's responsible for maintaining it? And then, has it been maintained? Yeah. And if it has, how do I get a hold of those records?
Yeah.
So since that's something that I'm having Exergy take care of, how is that handled?
Sure. Our software behind the scenes manages all of that. We're on top of it. We provide those reports. And let's say you also wanted to know what the carbon output of the system was in any given month, so that you could buy carbon offsets to make yourself truly 100% carbon free. We have all that information at our fingertips and available to you. Again, no extra charge. It's all included in our monthly RSA payment.
So with a customer that is looking at it saying, this makes sense, but I'm just trying to be as skinny, regarding my finances as possible. Have you done any analysis on the breakdown of, the cost of, if I have Exergy in place and over 10 years, here's what my RSA is going to cost me, and then here's the other column. How does that typically break out?
Yeah, so we do this analysis, exactly what you're saying. Here's your cost, and here's how much you're going to save, and here's actually the credit back that you get, which I'm going to tell you about in a little bit. We do that analysis as part of our included budgeting process that we would present to each of our prospects before that they make a commitment, so they know exactly what they're getting into. And what this does is it allows you to see, all right, we know we need to set aside X number of dollars every month for the RSA payment, but because Exergy is managing that asset for us, we know that we're going to be cutting our peak usage during the most expensive hours and during, say, the coincident peaks in PJM or the CPs, 4 CPs in Texas. You know that your your transmission capacity charges will be cut pretty much almost to zero, and how much savings that's worth to you and your business. That is all quantified for you within a small margin of error. And then also I mentioned, we will rebate back some of the cash that we earn using the asset in the interim.
And the monies that you earn, that's the what's in it for Exergy, is, the shared savings model where, if you are participating in any, grid relief programs or any ancillary programs that you're capturing, that the customer gets a lion's share of that, and then Exergy gets a percentage. The thing that's kind of exciting about that, when you look at the market and where things are going, is you're hard pressed to find any analyst that says that the grid is going to become more stable and it's going to get less volatile in the near future. Nobody's saying that, because we all see the effects that renewable energy being added to the mix is having, and then the challenge of the aging infrastructure. So the numbers that you put in place, where they're based on the existing programs, you can see where that would be very conservative, because those programs are going to become more vital to the health of the grid. Absolutely. Which means the compensation levels would do nothing go up. So let's say I have a solution in place. Exergy is managing it. And when I sign on to a long-term relationship, I'm expecting X number of dollars worth of savings that are going to come back to me, that you're going to capture through those programs. Yep. And 2 years in, those programs, the monies available are larger. Am I going to see that, or is that going to be something that's just extra revenue for Exergy?
Right. So let me tell you a little bit more about how it works. Since that backup power system that we install for you is sitting idle 99.9% of the time, waiting for an outage to occur, we use the equipment to participate in exactly what you just said, those grid support programs like demand response, synchronous reserves, etc. And those programs are in place because at given times there may not be, say, enough generation or enough transmission capacity available, and the grid operator needs its customers to reduce their usage or their load on the grid, and will pay you a certain amount of revenue. It depends by market, based upon your contribution to that reduction. So we will participate on your behalf. We get paid by the grid to remove your load during those hours of peak stress on the grid. And then we share those profits with you. And that defrays part, or in some cases, all of your fixed monthly RSA payments. Some of our clients are getting free backup power systems.
With no soft costs of their employees having to do anything.
Exactly. You literally don't have to lift a finger. This is basically a highly discounted or a free backup generator. And it's the best deal in the market. No one else can provide the low-cost solution for solving your resiliency and sustainability requirements.
So if you think about like the second side of this, in addition to the no CapEx, being carbon, reducing my carbon footprint as a company. The typical scenario out there is just because, most organizations, they're not really that savvy with the energy market. So they'll have an energy broker in place, and the energy broker will take the amount of energy they use. They'll go out to the market, they'll get a couple bids, and whoever the best bid is, they'll come back and they'll say, here's the best rate. Let's lock this in, or either a short term or a long term, depending on what your tolerance is. So how does Exergy do it differently?
Right. So we go out to the market. And again, we sit on your side of the table. We go out to the market and have the suppliers compete amongst themselves to give you the best contract for your organization. So maybe that's going to be, say, a gigawatt hour of zero carbon nuclear energy for the next 5 years, and they will fix that rate so that you know exactly what your energy costs are. That means that you are no longer exposed to the rising energy rates in the market. You've then taken that risk out of the equation. What this allows us to do then is help you reduce your costs and pass that savings 100% on to you.
So it now energy, but let's say there's an event and I'm running a backup generator that might be natural gas. So how is my operation 100% carbon?
Right. So when we self-generate, we don't need to accept those carbon-free electrons coming in from the grid. We resell those into the market as brown electrons and keep the clean components, the clean credits, green credits, and we can use those in credit against the carbon that we're producing.
Okay, so I've purchased 100% of my total usage as green energy.
That's right, and you retain those benefits at all times.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And and that's the thing. Like if you don't understand how green energy works, you just assume that if I have a contract for 100% nuclear energy, then that energy is being created at the nuclear site and it's traveling along the lines and it's coming to my facility directly.
Yep.
And that's not the case.
For some organizations, that's still not good enough. They want to also know exactly how much carbon the generator produced and buy the offsets. We can do that. We know exactly how to go out to the market and get those carbon offsets to even offset the carbon that the generator's emitted. We handle, again, all of this for no extra cost. Everything is one set price in the RSA payment.
So I've made that RSA payment and I have a certain term, let's say 10 years, for example. And
yep.
I've had my backup power. I've had my green energy. I haven't had to touch anything. And Exergy has helped capture revenue to offset as much as possible that service, the resiliency service agreement. What happens at the end of that agreement?
Oh, so at the end of the agreement, the equipment is yours to keep. The equipment is transferred to your group for a nominal amount of money. And if you still want to work with Exergy to maintain and manage that system for you, we'll gladly enter into a managed service agreement, and you pay us nothing at all under that MSA. But we then share with you, again, the profits that we generate using the backup power facility to support the grid as an increasing amount of intermittent renewables get added to the grid.
Okay, so I'm a customer, and I've entered a relationship with Exergy. Exergy analyzes my needs, finds out what my peak demand is. They install, manage, and maintain that backup power equal to that load. They handle the participation in those ancillary programs. Handle setting up my energy contracts so that I get green energy, and then at the end of that term, I take ownership of that asset.
That's right.
What about the other parts of the business that that happen now? So when we say no CapEx, we've talked about the generator, but there are concerns that are hitting businesses now that were never factors before. Now all of a sudden, a one location factory is now having to look at, do I put in EV charging stations for my employees so they can charge during the day? I'm replacing my heat pump, my heating with now electrified heat pumps. Staffing challenges are just, something I just can't manage. So we're looking at adding additional robotics. So now my energy demand is going up. Yep. Where does Exergy fit into that when we're not talking about just the capital expenditure for just my generator, but these other pieces that are related to my energy usage?
You're exactly right. The amount of facility electrification that's going to occur going forward is going to be enormous, whether that is, as you said, adding EV charging stations to your business, or electrifying certain systems and operations so that you have greater control and quality coming out of your production. What we do is we will, again, since we're your concierge utility, consult to you at no extra cost to help you design and maintain and operate these facility upgrades. And we'll roll that cost, that CAPEX, into the RSA agreement so that you can pay for it over time and get the rebates from our participation in grid programs.
So I can take my revenue, my CAPEX, and I can put it into something that's going to affect my top line revenue instead of resiliency. So, one last question. As I'm entering into that relationship, and I look at, I've got different pieces. I've got, my energy, costs, and I get that all set up. And then we decide on a particular generator. And let's say that there's a time frame where there's a gap between when, Exergy comes on board and helps me start to manage my energy. And then when we get the gen set delivered, get it installed, get it commissioned, all of that. When do I start paying my RSA monthly payment?
Oh, great question. So there are two aspects of that, and let me address them each. One is when you can start getting your contracted green electrons, if that's what you choose. We can get that set up and have you up and going in as little as weeks. It depends on when your existing contract or rate tariff ends. And then we can have a back-to-back start for the new contract. We had one customer up in Massachusetts that was paying over 30 cents a kilowatt hour. We were able to get them down to, I think it was about 12 or 13 cents a kilowatt hour for their energy. So we saved them a massive amount of money straight out of the gate. But as you said, it's going to take us a little time with the long lead times for capital equipment these days. It's going to take us a little time to order, install, and permit the backup power equipment on your site. You do not start paying that RSA payment until that facility is commissioned on your site and operating on your behalf.
So till I'm receiving the benefit of having it in place.
That's right. We're not going to charge you if you're not receiving the benefit.
Yeah. Yeah, not a good way to develop great relationships with a customer.
Exactly.
So, from your seat as the CFO, of a company that's growing and in growth mode, where keeping an eye on revenue and all the different buckets and the different cost, components of running a business. Um, Anything that you would share to other CFOs or financial officers of companies, specifically about this program or Exergy in specific?
Absolutely. So, um, as a CFO, I'm always thinking about where's the lowest cost of capital coming from. We have access to the capital markets and capital for capital equipment that can come in way below the vast majority of our clients' capital costs. So our customers can then apply their capital to more useful applications, such as revenue growth or uh, growing your organization's headcount. Our low cost capital comes to your benefit, and that should make a lot of sense because we have the experience of going out to the market and setting this all up for you. Um, and we get it that this is complicated. We get it that this is the energy markets are not going to be getting any simpler. And that's why we created Exergy, to sit on your side of the table, advocate for you, and know and understand what values your organization is trying to accomplish and achieve, and help you reach those at the lowest cost possible.
Yeah, take your money and put it back into your business and let us take care of the other. Well, Dave, thanks for your time. This has been insightful. And it's nice to hear it from that financial point of view, because oftentimes that's something that we don't look at. We look at in the the sales environment, we look at the business problem and then we look at the solution and how we can address it. And and sometimes you don't stop to think about that revenue component of things. So this has been helpful. Thanks for taking the time to walk through this with us. And then, for our viewership, if you have any questions that we haven't answered during this conversation, please feel free to reach out to us. You can either go to exergyenergy.com. We've got a contact page there. We'll make sure to get back in touch with you, or reach out to us through our LinkedIn page. We're very active there, and somebody is always on top of that. So hope this has been helpful. David, have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Randall. You have a good one.